Today marks the 30 years since 4 white police officers were acquitted in the beating of Rodney King.
Yeah, that verdict sparked days of riots where more than 60 people were killed and hundreds more were injured. On March 3rd, 1991, Rodney King was beaten by LAPD officers after allegedly trying to evade arrest for driving while intoxicated. A bystander filmed this incident that you see right here on this video. This is back before cell phone videos. This was captured on a camcorder showing King unarmed on the ground being kicked, tased, and hit repeatedly by the 4 officers wielding batons. None of the officers were found guilty on the charges of using excessive force. 2 were later found guilty in a federal civil rights case and sentenced to 30 months in prison.
Joining us now for more on this is Francoise Hamlin. She's an associate professor of History and Africana Studies at Brown University. Thanks for joining us. For folks who weren't there back then, take us back to why Rodney King's beating was so pivotal in the conversation regarding policing in America and why the outcome of the officer's trial sparked such outrage.
Sure. Thank you for having me. I think what we need to really take into account is that this wasn't new. I think it's the technology, and we had visual evidence, and yet the law or the justice system didn't prevail in that instance, and that is why the sort of aftermath was so poignant. And we're really seeing here community anger. Really the outpouring of community anger. But what we do see here in 30 years ago, how visual evidence is enough to kind of be there to try and sway more than the population that it actually affects, because most of us in that population, in those communities, understand that this is more of the same, more of how the system and how systemic racism has played out for centuries, really, in this country.
How did the LAPD respond in the aftermath of this? Did they put any reforms in place? And was there a response nationally? Did other police departments put any reforms in place?
No, I think it's really important to understand that most reform happens or is demanded from below, right? And so that these police committees and systems aren't sort of volunteering for reform. These are, there's a certain level of training and there's a certain level of policing of certain communities that has allowed this to happen for very many years, and also a sort of a certain way in which police are recruited in the first place, right? So for me, it's really thinking about how any reform that happens is always coming from the bottom up.
Yeah, I was there living in South Central Los Angeles when this took place. And I think people forget 60+ people died during these riots, hundreds of businesses destroyed, and the community really reeled following that verdict, and certainly felt that they had no recourse, there was no voice for the people. And a commission was started, in that community. And people felt over the subsequent years that some voice was had, but certainly many of the buildings still have not been rebuilt.
30 years later.
Those areas 30 years later. Yeah. And for a lot of Black people, they look at what's continued to happen. Black men still being killed at the hands of police, other brown people as well. Police brutality in many respects, they say, still existent. And there's been one shift, though, that we can talk about, and that has been the change in technology and how quickly folks can, record and then disseminate the information. That certainly changed the conversation around policing. And what changes can you say that we've seen as a result of that?
I do think the conversation has changed insofar as you can't deny what you see, even though there's a way in which things have been justified, accordingly. So that's why Chauvin can even think about, denying the fact that he had his knee on someone's neck forever, and that, anyone sort of who saw it is biased about actually seeing a murder, right? So there's a way in which we have to think about, yes, we have the evidence now, but we've always had the evidence, right? This, again, in Black communities and in communities of color, thinking about policing and sort of the overexertion of police force isn't new. So for them, there has been no change. Now it's like, look, even with the evidence, very, very few people are being convicted of murder for murdering, especially public servants. And the laws itself hasn't changed. Like the system of white supremacy hasn't changed or shifted in any way, shape or form. The systemic racism in the police force and in society and in the justice system hasn't really shifted enough.
And that comes from the Supreme Court all the way down to the policing rules and regulations in their handbooks. And someone told me on the inside, until those things change, until the precedent that supports a police officer's right, until those things change, that is, we're not going to see
change.
We won't see change at all.
Right.
Right, that's the gauge. I mean, that really is the gauge of change. It's not just where the conversation is happening sort of on Facebook or on Twitter. It's the systemic change. That's really, because we're still having this conversation, and Rodney King was 30 years ago, right? I mean, so if we're still having the conversation, how can we, what's the change, right? We're still having the same conversation. So, when we think about change over time, for me, the gauge and the measure is sort of the systemic change. If we're still having the conversation about excessive police brutality, then that has not changed.
Didn't start with Rodney King. It certainly didn't end with Rodney King. So obviously we still have some work to do. Francoise Hamlin.